Welcome, and thank you for standing by. Participants are in a listen-only mode until the question-and-answer session of today's event. At that time, you may press star 1 on your touch-tone phone if you'd like to ask a question. Please refer to your invitation to access a link for the PowerPoint presentation. Today's conference is being recorded. If you have any objections, please disconnect. I would now like to turn the conference over to Mr. David Ramos. Thank you, Mr. Ramos. You may begin.
Thank you, Fran, for that welcome, and welcome, everybody. Good afternoon or good morning to those joining us from both coasts and everywhere in between. Thank you for joining our call this morning. This is our third quarter MoneySmart for Small Business Town Hall. My name is David Ramos, and I serve the FDIC, the capacity of Community Affairs Specialist, and also as the national point of contact for our MSSB financial education curriculum. I trust that everyone is safe and adjusting well to our new environment. As all of us are experiencing, the world as we know it has changed. Many of us now report to work to our virtual office instead of our physical office. Our Monday morning meetings are now taking place over Monday morning virtual meetups to give an example of how much our lives have changed. And due to social distancing precautions, we're all engineering new approaches to address in-person daily routines that were once second nature to us. One thing that has stayed constant, however, is our shared goal of reaching and aiding aspiring small businesses achieve their potential. Every one of our communities across the nation depend economically on the success of these entrepreneurs. So during our call, we will be highlighting two of our MoneySmart Alliance member banks. We will be hearing from representatives of HarborOne Bank and Wintrust Financial Corporation. I know that they're familiar names. Some of you have been on past calls with both of these organizations. We will learn firsthand from the financial institutions about their innovative online learning approaches they have created to engage entrepreneurs, given these social distancing protocols. We will also learn about the processes taken to launch their online platforms, how they have incorporated the MoneySmart curriculum, and how they measure success with their virtual engagement. So we're thankful to both of these ladies that they're the architects of these online strategies, and they're with us today. On your screen, you have a list of the hosts and speakers, and they are listed in the order that they're going to come on the phone. You'll have a few moments, and a few moments have an opportunity to hear from each one. So today's agenda consists of a quarterly update from the FDIC. We also have some key economic trends that we want to share with you. We will move into our discussion titled Embracing Our New Distance Learning Environment Through Innovative Approaches. And toward the end, we'll have an opportunity to answer any questions that you may have during our Q&A segment. Okay. I have a few updates, like I mentioned. Earlier this year, we unveiled our most recently updated modules, our banking services and business credit modules. Some of you were on this call. Both of these modules have been updated with feedback from organizations teaching MoneySmart for Small Business, directly from their clients, those that have been through the program, and we've implemented these changes based on their feedback. We are excited to remind everyone about the improvements to the two modules and hope everyone has had an opportunity to implement the modules when delivering MSSB to your clients. When you have an opportunity to check out the FDIC's COVID-19 resources for banks and consumers, this is a new webpage that we've dedicated to COVID-19 resources. It includes answers to frequently asked questions from banks and consumers impacted by COVID-19. On this new site, you will also find a special edition of the FDIC Consumer News focused specifically on COVID-19. As people consider how to stay safe while handling their finances, the FDIC published a new webpage that features new tools, including a video to help consumers open a bank account without visiting a bank branch. And lastly, you can read our MoneySmart success stories and learn directly from educators who are adapting to these virtual trainings like we'll be discussing today. Okay? The COVID-19 virus pandemic and the related business closures reduced economic activity on a global scale, as we all are aware. Nationally, as many states have reopened their economies, evidence of slight improvements can be observed. The reopening efforts of each state plays a role in our national economy, and we want to share a few economic trends that we've been tracking. The following data points come from the FDIC's U.S. Economic Conditions and Outlook briefing, developed by the Division of Insurance and Research. Okay, so you'll have the bullet points on the screen there that I'll be reading. The U.S. economy entered recession in March as COVID-19 halted economic activity due to stay-at-home orders. Economic activity in April reduced. Activity improved in May and June as some of these orders were lifted. Labor markets lost an unprecedented 21 million jobs in April. then posted better-than-expected gains in May and June, adding back 7.5 million jobs. Consumer and business sentiment fell initially, but have increased. Fiscal and monetary policy stimuli supported financial markets in turmoil and the economy broadly, and the housing market has held up so far. What we can gather from these figures is that the slight improvement month over month can be observed, but the economy is not back to pre-COVID levels yet. So look for more updates from our economic conditions and outlook reports in future calls, as we will be doing our best to keep you informed. Okay. Now, from a small business standpoint, I want to share a little bit of kind of where small business is today. Small business accounts for 44% of all U.S. economic activity, according to the SBA. Researchers at Harvard estimated that nearly 110,000 small businesses across the country had decided to shut down permanently between early March and early May. It also states that it could take up to a year before we know the true toll of the pandemic on the small business sector. The impacts varied across across industries. So consumer-facing operations reported employment declines exceeding 50%. Professional services experienced less disruption as these industries were better able to move to remote production, such as finance, real estate related activities, things like that could be done from home, I think, where we're seeing less impact. And then lastly, the pandemic exposed financial fragility of many businesses. The median firm with monthly expenses over $10,000 had only enough cash on hand to last roughly a 2-week period from a poll that was taken earlier this year. Minority-owned businesses have been among the hardest hit during this pandemic. A recent study by JPMorgan Chase found that minority-owned businesses and underrepresented firms using external financing and face challenges of lower revenues, profit margins, and liquidity. So again, on this vein or on this topic, Forbes recently published 2 articles addressing the impact of COVID-19 on minority communities, specifically the small business communities. The presidents of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and the U.S. Black Chambers were interviewed for the series, Mr. Ramiro Cavazos and Ron Busby. Both presidents addressed the details of how the pandemic impacted their particular constituents and shared possible solutions for a road to recovery. Mr. Cavazos, the president of the U.S. HECC, was asked, what recommendations do you have for all small business owners in the current environment? And his response was here, and I quote, "Now is the time for businesses to be innovative, drive businesses into the new technological world, and diversify revenue streams. Finding niche products and service delivery opportunities is key to evolving both during and after COVID-19. And in this spirit is how we want to open today's discussion. How can we be innovative and leverage new technological platforms to drive our businesses to new service deliveries? To open this discussion, I will welcome my colleague, Tina Queen, and I'll turn this presentation over to her now.
Thanks, David. Again, my name is Tina Queen. I'm a community affairs specialist with the Outreach and Program Development section in our community affairs branch at the FDIC. I've been in this position approximately 10 years, performing training, developing new products, and performing outreach within the community. So my next slide would be our objective for today. And our objective is to share how our MoneySmart curriculum is being shared via online platforms. The ideas that our partner banks will be sharing do include the other MoneySmart curriculum we support outside of small business. Many of you in the audience use our MoneySmart for small business products, as well as our MoneySmart for adults, our MoneySmarts for older adults, and our MoneySmarts for young people. These ideas are not exclusive to MoneySmart for small business, but can apply to any of the curriculum the MoneySmart family of products covered. So as David mentioned, our world has changed, and therefore we all have to adapt to our new reality. Today's discussion, titled Embracing Our New Distance Learning Environment Through Innovative Approaches, is timely. Why is it timely? It's timely because it provides an opportunity for businesses to explore how to make greater use of technology to augment people to achieve productivity gains, improve the working lives of our employees, deliver products and services to customers, and help drive economic growth for small business. And simply, we all have to adjust our daily practices during this pandemic, and part of it is adopting new channels to deliver financial education, and one of them is virtually. So I'll go ahead and introduce our disclaimer. Reference to any specific organization does not constitute an endorsement, a recommendation, or a favoring by the FDIC or the United States government. So we just want you to know that although we have speakers and we're talking about specific products, that's not a way of us endorsing. We are just providing information. Our first presenter today is Sheila Farragher. Sheila is the Assistant Manager at HarborOne University, which is Financial Education Center under HarborOne Bank, and a long-time MoneySmart Alliance member, as David mentioned. In her current capacity, Sheila oversees the activities of HarborOne University to ensure the two education centers contribute to the overall success of the bank by generating new customers, increased revenue, and a positive public image supporting the company's brand. She is responsible for planning, scheduling, and providing effective, efficient, and professional curriculum and classroom presentations for the benefits of the public. Performs applicable database management, trend research, analysis, and reporting relating to HarborOne Bank, the HarborOne Foundation, and Community and Reinvestment Act. HarborOne University is one of the country's first centers devoted to financial education, life and career management services, and small business assistance. The group offers a wide range of classes, webinars, and events tailored to help people and business owners better understand and manage their finances and their future. HarborOne is a pioneer in offering educational opportunities to local residents and businesses. Cited as a national model, their innovative education center, now known as HarborOne University, helped place thousands of people on the path to a brighter future through the educational opportunities made available there. Today, Sheila will be sharing with us about HarborOne University's new small business pilot titled Success for Small Business, which has been recently launched as an online learning tool for small business owners. Sheila, thank you for presenting with us, and we are excited to hear about what's going on with your initiative firsthand. I'll pass things over to Sheila.
Okay, thank you, Tina, for that nice introduction. And I'm just waiting for the controls. But I just want to give you some background on HarborOne Bank. It's the largest state-chartered cooperative bank in New England with over $4 billion in assets. And we have 25 full-service branches in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. And we also have 2 commercial loan offices, one in Providence and one in Boston. And so today we'll be talking about the virtual delivery of our education programming. So we have a Success for Small Business, but also we have some youth financial education that we've been doing virtually as well that I will touch upon. And then this is just information on our website just about HarborOne and our background. And then HarborOne U is our education center. And in 2007, we opened our first center in Brockton, and that provided financial education in multiple languages. We did English as a second language, and we had basic computers. In 2010, we opened our second center in Mansfield, Mass., and we expanded our offerings to include the life and career management services, and then also small business assistance. And from there, then we also were offering the same things in both centers. In 2019, we began offering programs in Rhode Island at numerous partner locations. Because we didn't have a physical center in Rhode Island, we would partner with organizations to provide our, mostly it was a Success for Small Business, but also financial education. But some centers like the Center of Women in Enterprise, the Rhode Island Secretary of State's Office, Rhode Island Coalition for the Homeless, to name a few. So our Success for Small Business program, we started this in 2015. Actually, a couple of years ago, we were part of this similar town hall talking about the program, but we did it all in person. And the goal was to support economic growth in our communities, provide assistance to small businesses, and also to provide them with access to capital. And part of the program, once they completed what started off as 6 modules, that the participants could apply for a business line of credit. And so over time, this program had evolved. So we had 6 individual classes. Then we found out that people weren't completing the whole program, and so they were not applying for the line of credit. So we rearranged the format to be either in 2 evenings, or we did a boot camp format. So it was just 1 day, so we would know that they've completed the program and then would be eligible to apply if necessary. And that actually helped with people completing the program, and also we had increased applications for the business line of credit. But since COVID, we realized that more changes needed to be made, and we needed to work swiftly to get this program up and running virtually. And so we started that in May of this year. So as a result of COVID, with no classes being able to be held in person at either of our locations, and we had classes that were already scheduled through May. So we went to the virtual format. One of my colleagues did some research, and we decided on utilizing the Zoom format. We opted, after a lot of testing that we did, we decided to go with the webinar format. You heard all sorts of things about, Zoom bombing and kind of people taking over webinars. We didn't want that to happen, so we wanted to have ultimate control over the program. So we opted for the webinar format where everyone would be muted, and it would just be us sharing information. We also kind of decided we left the Q&A feature in the Zoom, but we opted to take out the chat just so that there wasn't a lot of kind of back and forth going on. And there's a kind of trying to decide whether, people, I think the instructors like to have that engagement, but we opted to be able to provide the information in a way without having people kind of take over the class. So, and we had an instructor so we had to revise the curriculum a little bit so that it would be conducive for the webinar format. So we probably took maybe about a month just to make sure that the presentation that we would be given would be conducive for a webinar. So the departments involved, so HarborOne U is actually part of the marketing department, and also the director of HarborOne U is also the CRA officer, and so I report directly to her. And we got risk. The risk department was involved because we needed to run Zoom through our vendor management, but we didn't have to include the technology group. We were able to have the recordings stored in the cloud through Zoom, so that was actually good that we didn't need to include technology just because they were already overwhelmed with everything going on with people working from home, et cetera, and all the branches needing assistance. And then this is just a sample of the e-newsletter. So this is how we communicate our programs to the public. So you don't have to be a customer of HarborOne Bank to attend classes or webinars with HarborOne U, but we send this out to all of our customers, but we also, the HarborOne U has their own kind of database of email contacts that people who have come to class that we capture that. So you can see down here that we have the Successful Small Business, and we offered it at the end of May. So we actually did it in English and in Spanish. We did it in Spanish in June over these 3 months. So we had these in-person classes already scheduled, and we had to adjust the dates a little bit so that we would be prepared to offer it virtually. So the MoneySmart curriculums that we use, so the MoneySmart for Small Business, so the modules, so planning for a healthy business, organizational types and tax reporting, credit reporting and banking services, financial management, record keeping, and managing cash flow. And then we added a marketing piece to our Successful Small Business program, and we call it Marketing Your Brand. So and when we originally created this program, we had our commercial team take a look at which modules they thought would be the most beneficial, so that they would be willing to just want to make sure that we had the right curriculum so that they would be comfortable with, so when people would apply for the business line of credit, that they had the education that they needed to be successful. And then we have changed, we provide a financial education for the young people. We have utilized an interactive game called Kahoot, and so we use the concepts from the MoneySmart for young people in developing the interactive game. So it's kind of like a PowerPoint, but within the Kahoot game, and it's a great thing that we're able to have these interactive questions. We're able to poll the students on various topics, and they seem pretty engaged, and we've had success with that. So we, increase of small business loans for CRA consideration. We actually assisted a city in Massachusetts with a downtown redevelopment program. The city of Attleboro is trying to kind of revitalize their downtown, and we provided them with links to recordings of our Successful Small Business as a tool for people that were applying for this program needed to go through our education in order to then proceed with applying for this a grant program, and so that was great. And we just wanted to provide small businesses with resources that they needed. You know, small businesses were struggling, and we just felt like we needed to get people were, you know, reaching out to us, when are you going to have your next class? And I think initially when COVID hit, we were thinking like, oh, we'll just bump it out another month or two, and you know, now we're realizing how serious and the issue is, and that so going to this online format is great. And even not with COVID related, but just the fact that some people with their schedules, it's easier for them to, instead of having to come to a scheduled class, to be able to have the opportunity to access these recordings at a time that's convenient for them was, you know, great for them, and then it's also great for us. So we can have these recordings, and it's out there for a long period of time. We don't have to be having to deliver this over and over again. We have the recordings, and then they can see it. We'll have that for as long as, and if we needed to kind of change things up, we can always, you know, change out the classes, but it definitely has some sustainability. And then as for financial education, we were able to, you know, expand our reach and, you know, continue to deliver as much financial education to underserved communities and to empower those individuals to make well-informed decisions. And then this is just a sample of what the first page of the recording looks like. And this is Tricia White, who we hired to actually do the recordings for us. So she is a marketing brand specialist, but she's also a former Mass Small Business Development business advisor. And then this is an example of the Kahoot game, and here's Claudia Cardozo, who works with me. And so this is just to see, one of the questions that we ask the students is share a few words of advice for Mike Tyson, who, you know, went bankrupt after earning $400 million, and, you know, spend money wisely, invest, save. Like, this is just an example of how engaged the students are with the Kahoot game. And then the results. So we've conducted 12 live webinars over May and June. We have 9 recordings available on our website. We've had 475 attendees, and that is actually 3 times more clients as compared to 2019 for the in-person classes that we offered during that same time period. And then additionally, in addition to the 475, we've reached more than 600 young people with our financial education. And then so outcomes, you know, we're reaching more individuals. We have increased business. So just within like this a month and a half time period, I think this is from like May 15th through the end of July, or maybe it's 2.5 months. So we had 3 new business loans, one as a result of the Successful Small Business Program that we did in May, 1 consumer loan, and for total loans of $46,000, a business value checking, 4 personal checking, 5 personal savings for a total of $47,000. And then for financial education, increased awareness of credit and credit scores, and understanding the impacts. We noticed that with, I just had some stats and now I can't find it. So I think it was like 30% of the students actually didn't realize that your credit would be checked when you apply for a job, and similarly, they did not realize that you know, bankruptcies and collections can stay in your credit for 7 to 10 years. It was like only 30% of the students were aware of that. So even within the Kahoot game, there's a lot of different things that, a lot of different reports that we could pull information from to figure out that be able to look at. I just haven't had a chance to look at all of the reporting, but there's a lot of good data points that would be able to see kind of what the kids, what they know kind of ahead of time, and the different things that they're learning. And we always ask them at the end, you know, what was their biggest takeaway, and it's always like, oh, I didn't realize, you know, that credit is so important, or I didn't realize that, you know, that budgeting is a lot more difficult than I thought, and things like that. And then just final advice is adjust constantly. You know, we've changed this program a number of times, but I think going virtual it's been a challenge, but I think it's also been rewarding. We've always talked about doing things online, and I think this was kind of the kick that we needed to get it going, because we had to do it. So there's also, you know, engagement versus the content quality. I know that, you know, one of my colleagues, she misses the engagement with the students, but I think it's difficult to get great engagement over a webinar. But so there's definitely kind of a learning curve on that, and even doing financial education through a webinar or trying to get feedback, that is definitely a challenge. Like just yesterday, she opened up like, oh, she wanted to try to get feedback about, you know, what did you think about that? And it was crickets. So I'm like, so as much as some people kind of love that engagement, sometimes it might be just as important just to get the information out there in a quality product. And then, you know, think long term, like this doesn't just have to be a COVID thing, right? So I think we're definitely realizing that this is something that we will continue to do in the long run. And then, so I have it, practice, practice, practice. We practiced so many times before we actually went live. And, you know, the first couple of times that we did it, you know, definitely some bumps in the road, but we definitely got better as time went on. And then just finally that the MoneySmart curriculums are just great tools, and that, you know, we utilize them often, and we're happy to, you know, be able to bring the great curriculums to the people that need it the most. So that is it for me, and I will turn it back to Tina.
Okay, thank you so much, Sheila. And I'm definitely going to, right after this webinar, have my daughter try to test out that Kahoot because she's been using that for school anyway. So thank you for that piece of information that I can use at home. My next presenter is Cassandra Slade. Cassandra is the Senior Vice President and Community Impact Executive Leader at Wintrust Community Impact and a valued MoneySmart Alliance member. Cassandra is an experienced impactful community development leader with 20-plus years of in-depth experience managing and providing strategic direction to key corporate CRA functions, including strategic partnership optimization, board committee development, neighborhood-based solutions, organizations and staff development. Industry experience includes financial services, nonprofits, and quasi-governmental organizations. She is self-directed, has high energy, achievement-oriented contributor who partners with line of business managers and external partners to achieve strategic objectives. Her background also includes co-founding a nonprofit organization and leading affordable housing corporation in her state of Illinois. For over 10 years, Wintrust Financial Corporation has been offering the MoneySmart curriculum in their communities. As an early adopter of our educational curriculum, the firm has been successfully offering financial education to over 3,000 individuals annually. As the pandemic changed their day-to-day business, Cassandra helped identify the opportunity to take her in-person, one-on-one MoneySmart sessions virtual, a significant milestone for the organization as a pilot of this kind has never been done at the institution. Cassandra helped successfully launch MoneySmart Virtual June 24th, 2020. We're going to hear today from Cassandra about the journey the organization took to launch this new creative online delivery of their in-person financial education. Thank you again, Cassandra, for taking your time out today to present to us, and we welcome you.
Thank you, Tina, for the invitation, and David for the invitation to join you all today. We are very excited to offer MoneySmart at Wintrust, and we're calling it for now MoneySmart Live, and it's our virtual financial education journey. As was referenced, we have been offering MoneySmart, all of the curriculums, for 10-plus years, and with rave success. And as the previous presenter, it was interesting because we thought a next opportunity for us pre-COVID was to provide this information virtually. And so with the pandemic, we found an opportunity here that would present itself to us, and we took the opportunity to introduce it earlier than later. We started talking about it, and we thought we had a captive audience of individuals at home. So I was happy to get the internal support to move forward with it. A little bit about Wintrust Financial Corporation. It's headquartered in Rosemont, Illinois, and that is a Chicago suburb. Financial holding company with assets of over $43.5 billion. We operate 15 community bank subsidiaries, so it's a little different. Each of those subsidiaries are bank charters, and we're all OCC regulated. We have 180 banking locations throughout greater Chicago and southern Wisconsin. We have opened one branch in Florida within the last 2 years. And we operate Wintrust Mortgage for our origination and purchase of residential mortgages. So they're a strong partner with us as well and participate in our MoneySmart sessions. One of the items that I thought would be helpful as well is that when David asked, and as we were starting our journey, we started it with our consumer offering of the MoneySmart programming. But we have certainly found that with many of the smallest of businesses, they start with the creditworthiness of the owners, and so being able to provide financial education to those owners in a consumer format helps prepare them to establish or reestablish credit so that they're able to access loan capital for their growing business needs at the appointed time. So even we do offer small business, and we in fact, we did a pilot with a local chamber of commerce with a small business module, so we definitely see that we'll be opening that up to the mass market shortly, as well as we did a virtual session with a youth summer program and a summer employment program. And a couple of the questions, interestingly enough, were related to lending to small businesses. So we certainly see a lot of interconnectedness to one another amongst the modules. Again, just in our fast facts per the screen, MoneySmart's offered exclusively at Wintrust for the past 10 years. And we have it's just part of our programming. I like the idea. It was very interesting to hear the university concept, and congratulations on that. We have utilized our employees. So we have around 300 of our, we have about 4,000 total employees, but we have about 300 of them that are, quote, certified. We developed an internal, quote, certification process for employees to become certified MoneySmart facilitators, and that includes them participating in a presentation, co-leading a presentation, and then leading a presentation with observation. And as referenced, we average about 3,000 or so per year in sessions that we teach. And of those employees that are throughout our branch network and corporate employees as well, 890 consumer MoneySmart sessions, 370 business sessions, to a collective of 3,198 for 2019, and then a total of 14,000 and running for since we've been offering that. And then in 2019, 2,704 hours in time in teaching MoneySmart sessions. So our sleeves are rolled up and we're all in on MoneySmart. And as reference also, we started MoneySmart Live Virtual in June 2020 after at least a 3 or 4 month planning process. So we were happy to get that launched. The concept for MoneySmart Live was that there would be expanding the exclusive financial education from our traditional one-to-one and group delivery to include this virtual financial education. And then the why is a comprehensive and integrated approach to addressing an increasingly virtual environment and connecting internal resources, reaching the broader community and customers to fuel their continued financial economic empowerment and leverage this critical period. So some of our modules obviously are great building blocks for this. The first one we let out with was protecting your identity. We knew that a lot of people were doing things, conducting business virtually, ordering things virtually and things of that nature, and thought it would be a really good refresher course to get that started. And now we're working our way through the remainder of the curriculum, even engaging our mortgage partners for the homebuyer module that will be upcoming and forthcoming as well. And the who is to have multiple presenters to increase engagement and make the presentation more interactive. And that's certainly been an ongoing challenge that we've risen to the occasion of without seeing faces. It is somewhat of a challenge, but the platform that we utilize, which is called Blue Jeans, allows us to have a poll function, and so we've developed these strategic poll questions related to the curriculum that's going to be presented that we strategically utilize throughout the presentation. And many of them have asked for an open-ended answer, and so that allows the audience to participate in that chat. And we have a lively banter going on with the panel because we found that. So we have about 4 presenters for each presentation, and we found that kind of shakes it up in terms of the voices and the delivery tonality and presentation skills, and so that has been very helpful to help with that linking into the engagement piece of it. We thought about when we're doing these in one-on-ones, we're able to, hand a pen out or, some kind of gift certificate or what have you for participation. But in a virtual environment, and you don't have that, we're always thinking and reviewing about how to increase that engagement. And then we've settled on weekdays, mid-morning, early afternoon. We have a 1.5-hour slot, so as you know, some of those modules test that time, but we have been able to go through them as a panel and highlight the ones that we'll be covering, give a good disclaimer at the beginning of the session, and move the presentation forward. And I referenced kind of the Blue Jeans event that we utilize, and it allows us, very similar to how you're observing the webinar, there's no faces in the presentation. The material is on the screen, and the PowerPoint is progressed throughout the presentation, so there's not a video. The video component is, in our case, the actual presentation of itself. And then one of the things that we found is that it has been a good, well-received thus far, very, very early on in the market, and we're testing the frequency of the sessions now. We're starting out with 2 per month and seeing how that goes and increase or as the market calls for that. But how it got started, again, convening internal stakeholders to serve as kind of this project task force, and that did include our IT people who had much more of the background knowledge on IT. And in fact, one we call kind of a term our engineer. So when we're thanking the attendees, we thank our engineer by his first name, and he's there in the background to make sure that everything's flowing, microphones are aligned, and there's just not any technical difficulties. And then I kind of serve as a facilitator to the panel, and it's been very well received. We've been able to customize that PowerPoint, as I mentioned earlier, and insert bios of the presenters into that. So we have pictures and the contact information in an opening and a closing screen, and that's been well received. And we have found that Blue Jeans application is working well for us for the time being, because it does have this ability to mute the participants on entry. So that's why we really spend a little time showing them where the chat button is, and also where the poll part of the screen is, so that they can engage with the presentation in those ways, since the microphones have been muted for participants. We leveraged our internal marketing department for resources, advertising assistance, as well as I referenced earlier to the internal IT department. And you'll see shortly the flyer that's been created, and we utilize that to share with our 180 banking centers and ask them to push it out to their community partners, as well as on our own Wintrust social media platforms, and have the announcement marketed that way. We do have the marketing materials are available around 2 weeks before each session, and so it keeps it fresh and keeps it updated as they're sharing that. And then we select facilitators for upcoming MoneySmart Live presentations. In fact, we have a line forming because the word has been passed about the process, and that's gone really well. Host training session with facilitators in terms of preparing for it with who will be presenting, and that's when we review the presentation, assign who's going to cover what, and then we have a second one just before, a day before, for about a half an hour, that we just kind of go through that and how it looks, make sure everybody can access it. And then we have the attendees are able to register for the session. We have another third-party piece that we use for that, Eventbrite, and then once they're registered, they're able then to receive a link to the actual participant guide and the call-in information. So it's kind of and then we're able to capture their name and email address, as I'll mention in a little bit, for what we use that for. And then, again, as I mentioned, we have an opening and closing script that's been developed and personalized for each session, just kind of an overview of what will be covered, as well as a housekeeping section on how the event will go. Mentioned already around the attendees joining in listen-only mode. Again, I cannot speak highly enough about those poll questions, and it's been a lot of fun developing those, and sometimes they're multiple choice, sometimes they're true and false, sometimes they're open-ended, and one of the things that has been a best practice around this as well is that there's the pre-training survey and the post-training survey that's already included in the MoneySmart presentation. And so we open up with a poll question, 2 or 3 of those as actual poll questions. And so that gives us a good gauge of the audience and what their level is, and encourages participation straight out of the gate. And then at the end, we are closing out with, again, a few of those post-training questions as well, and that's been a good way to engage the audience. We do have an internal MoneySmart email address at moneysmart@wintrust.com, so anyone can communicate. In fact, we ask people if they, in case we not sure how they heard about the session that they're on, but if they would like to be on an email to receive upcoming sessions, that they can reply to that email address with their information, and they'll receive that. And then we do issue a certificate of completion, which is why we need the first name and last name and the email address, so that post the session we're able to issue those certificates of completion, because we do have a second chance banking products, and that require MoneySmart financial education, and so that provides them the certificate that they need to go into a branch if they would like to access and open up one of those accounts. And then, again, you're in this particular format that we utilize, you're able to preload the poll questions using those survey questions. I'm going to try to move it along here. And again, here's just the promotional flyer that talks about the free MoneySmart webinar. This was the one that we did July 29th, and with what the training will cover, and the way that this flyer has been developed in our marketing department. When it's received in the email, they can click the flyer anywhere, and it will open up the registration process. So I'm very grateful that we have that expertise in-house and are able to utilize that. So that completes my presentation. Thank you so much, and I will turn the presentation to Tina.
Thank you, Cassandra. Really appreciate that information you provided on how you all were able to transition your program into a virtual program. At this time, we will like to do a short segment for Q&A, but before then, I just want to again give a special thanks to Sheila and Cassandra for just providing us all great ways to adjust and enhance the way we continue to serve our clients and work in the community to make sure things continue to move on during this COVID-19 condition. At this time, operator, we'd like to open up the phone for calls and the chat.
Thank you so very much. If you would like to ask a question over the telephone, please press star then 1. Please unmute your phone and record your name clearly when prompted. Your name is needed to introduce your open line. So again, please press star 1 and take a moment to record your name. One moment, please, for our first question. Again, one moment, please. So we do have a question. Crystal Avery Morris. Ma'am, your line is open.
Thank you so much. My question is, what information, and this is I think for Cassandra, what information are you capturing using the Blue Jeans platform? And will this presentation be shared with the attendees?
I can certainly answer the information that we capture. It is their first name and their last name and their email address. One piece about the Blue Jeans software that's very helpful as well is once the session is ended, it automatically generates an Excel spreadsheet with everyone that attended and their email address if they put it in as they were joining. So we have two places where we can capture it as well.
Is there an option to capture additional information like age or economic info or like income info or anything that you know of?
Certainly, you can place all that in, and then it's under your own. That's all of the information that we chose to put in, but you can make any of those fields customizable for what your respective needs might be.
Thank you.
And I think you had a second part of that question. I think you were referring to the presentation that we're viewing today. That will be available. It's actually available on your confirmation email that when you register, there's a link to the presentation. If you do not see that, you can email me. I'll put my email in the next couple of slides up, and I can make the presentation available to you over email. Okay? Operator?
Thank you.
Again, if you do have a question, please press *1 and record your name. My last question at this time is from Gracina. Ma'am, your line is open.
Thank you. Yeah, my question for the panelists is, could you go into more detail on how you develop your certification program for your employees to become MoneySmart facilitators? What were some of the, how is the program developed?
Well, I did reference it in my presentation, so I'll try to take a stab at answering that, is that we certainly knew that we had varying levels of skill sets in terms of delivery, and so that's why, but we didn't want to make the process onerous because, again, these are staff people that are in their other jobs, in their actual jobs that they do every day. And so the facilitation of MoneySmart sessions is in addition to that. So we took that into consideration when we were thinking about that. So we just track it by a simple spreadsheet and with their name, and each of our subsidiaries that I kind of referenced, but maybe that's not even important in the explanation here. But there's a coordinator. We have about 15 coordinators that help manage the 300 people that present. And of those coordinators, if someone's interested, they will contact them and say they want to get certified, and or if they're new to the organization, but it's at that level that it's determined that they'd like to go through the process. And so their name is just simply put in, and then the date that they attended one of the MoneySmart sessions, so they saw it happen, or in this case they would hear it happen. The second time they co-facilitated with a certified instructor, with someone who had already been through this process, and then the date of that is those two, and then the third date is when they actually presented by themselves a portion of the MoneySmart, if not all of the module. So it's and we found that it's worked ever since we instituted. We've never changed that certification process. Very simple, and then we do kind of a refresher education. Once in a while, we actually do have the FDIC when they're available to come in and do some refresher training for us.
Okay, so follow-up question. When you're saying, so the training is basically watching a demonstration of how to present the lesson, then co-facilitate with one of the certified employees, and then present by themselves. So it's a three-step process. Yes. Okay. Now, did you have the FDIC come and actually do any kind of training, or is this all happening with your own employees?
It's happening with our own employees, And so, again, they have full schedule. So when we do schedule something with the FDIC, we open it up to our certified facilitators to come, and it serves as a continuing education role piece as opposed to the initial certification process.
Excellent. Thank you.
Absolutely.
To ask a question over the phone, please press *1 and record your name. My next question from Joanne Bolata. Ma'am, your line is now open.
Thank you. So I have 3 questions. The first is for the gal with the small business, and I don't know if I missed the boot camp. Is that like a Saturday session? How many hours is it, and how often do you run that?
Yeah, so for in-person is when we did the boot camp, and we would do it, it was 7 hours, and we would typically do it on a Friday, but you could do it anytime. But right now, we're not doing any in-person, so we've actually recorded the different modules separately so that people could then view them. So in like 1 hour, one of them might be a little over an hour, but in 1 hour segments, because just for recordings or webinars, doing long, lengthy presentations would not be conducive. But the boot camp, originally when we did do it in person, it was a 1-day event.
Okay. I've separated it into 4 when I do something, but I like your format a little bit better. But and how do you know that they're on the webinars now? What's the verification process?
Yeah, so they register through Zoom, and then we can see when they, because they have to register to even view the recording. So we did it 2 ways. So we had the live webinar, and we did that over 3 sessions. And then within Zoom, you can see who attended. So you can see the registrations, you can see who attended, you can see how long they attended. For the recordings, you can only see when they've registered for the recording. You can't see actually that they've viewed it, but if it's just an hour, the fact that they're registering for it, they're probably going to view it right then and there.
Okay. My second question is general for everybody, and something I struggle with is since we've been going virtual, we've had more success, but what are the best avenues to be advertising these classes? We have a platform through the cooperative extension that we use. It's only as good as the people who know that the platform exists. Otherwise, it's kind of, Facebook, Eventbrite. I don't know which is the best option right now.
Yeah, for us, our e-newsletter really is whenever we have anything, whether it be for small business or even some of the other things that we have, whenever we send out the e-newsletter to all of our customers, and then also you attendees, you don't have to be a customer, but I will say, so when we did a separate class, it was called Instagram 101, we had well over 100 registrants, and normally if we had an in-person class, it might be 30. So we were well, people are definitely hearing. I would say also we have a relationship with the Small Business Development Center in our area, and they actually add us to their e-newsletters that go out about the different programs that we have. So we have the benefit of that.
Okay.
Because we don't do any paid advertising of our programs.
Right. Yeah. We're grant funded, so we don't either. My last question is for the FDIC in general. I know that you came out with the 2018 MoneySmart program, and as usual, technology changes constantly, and I'm dealing with a lot of stuff on the fintech level. wanted to know if there was any of the modules that might be being upgraded anytime soon. I know you just did it 2 years ago, but and the credit industry is changing the way that they look at credit and whatnot. So I didn't know if there was any opportunities to that you were looking at to add that into the program.
Sure. This is David. I'll take that one. The last update that we did to two of the modules, the banking services and credit for small business, does have an element that highlights fintech and online lending. Because you are right, that was part of the reason why we wanted to update it to get more consistent with what's happening. Currently, there is no plan to specifically make a module that speaks only to fintech and the activities that are going on there. However, as an organization, I know I'm on a steering committee we're looking to plan a conference around that subject with fintech and financial inclusion. So keep your ears and eyes open because we are working on that. We understand that is definitely a demand in the market, and we're looking to be responsive. So great question. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
And with
Thank
that, operator, do we have anyone else on the phone? Because I know we're running a little over the time here.
Thank you for asking. No, I have no further in queue.
All right. Well, then let me take over. I want to thank everyone, both of our panelists, Sheila and Cassandra. Thank you. You lit up the phone as well as the chat function. I know we didn't get the questions to we didn't get the answers to the questions that were asked over chat, which I do not want to ignore. I'll take responsibility for answering those and getting back to everybody. I know there's a lot of requests for getting both of your contacts for further questions, so we'll make that available to you. Right now, I think the biggest thing is I'm going to skip a few of the slides here. I mentioned that I was going to post my contact information for those that want to receive this deck slide. I will be happy to send it to you. Also, on the confirmation email that you sent when you received when you registered for the event, there should be a link. If not, again, just email me. But we made the presentation available to you. I will also, with the permission of our guests, I'm happy to share their contact information. I think they did on one or two of the slides very quickly. There was their email and their phone number, but we'll make that available to you as well. Again, we want to thank you all for your time. Thank you for sticking with us for an extra 10 minutes. And with this, I'm going to bring our call to an end. And Sheila and Cassandra, thank you, ladies.
Again,
thank you
for your participation. The conference is concluded. Please go ahead and disconnect. Again, thank you very much.